Now let's go to the next feature, which is the polymorphism in C#. Simply and briefly, the definition of the polymorphism is many forms. So I have multiple forms, and we will understand this better by examples. But for now, we need to understand the concepts of the polymorphism. We have two main concepts in the polymorphism. The first one called the overload, and the second called the override. The override, as I explained in the last feature in the abstract class, how we can rewrite the implementation of an existing function. If you remember in the last example in C#, we create an abstract method, and this abstract method, we said that we can rewrite its implementation inside another class. And the override here is the same, but we will talk about the override in a simple class, not in an abstract class. But what about the overload? The overload is simply having multiple functions with the same name but with different inputs. So let's say that I have a function to do the sum. The name of the function is sum, and it accepts two parameters. The first is integer and its name a. The second is also integer and its name b. Okay, what if I have another function and it will do the same job, but it will do the sum of three parameters, not two parameters? In this case, what I will do, I will not go and create a different function with different name. I will go and create a different function but with the same name in order to keep our code organized and understood. So the overload is just having several functions with the same name but different inputs. Now let's visualize this. We have a student class, and the student class, I have a function to get the student name, but this function not receiving any parameters. And I have another function with the same name, but it receives the ID of type integer, and another function with the same name, and also this received ID with the integer type same as the last one, in addition to another variable of type string called value. Now, if I called from outside this class or from inside this class this method get a student name. So we have three methods with the same name. Which one the compiler will execute? Based on the parameter will be sent when I call this function, the compiler will choose. If I send 0 parameters, the compiler will execute this. What about the override? As we mentioned before, that the override is used to rewrite the implementation of an existing code. But we explained this in the abstract class. But now we are talking about the normal class. Let's say I have a student class, and inside this student class there is get student name, and this method, it has its own implementation and it returns a string. I need to allow the developers to re-implement or to rewrite the implementation of this function in their classes. What I will do, I simply will use the virtual keyword in order to say that this method can be re-implemented. Now I will go to the another class, teacher, and I will inherit the public things from the class, as we explained before how to inherit the classes. Inside this class, I will just simply write the same function using the override keyword in order to say that this function already exists in another class, and I need to rewrite its implementation. I need to rewrite its implementation. This implementation will stay as it is, and this will be a new method for the teacher class with a new implementation. Simply, this is the override, and this is how we can label the functions to be virtual in order to be re-implemented in another class. Now let's go to the Visual Studio to understand these two concepts by an example.